Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time and your presence. I can see a good number of respondents already joined, waiting for having a good discussion on the subject on 3D printing for medical device. Ladies and gentlemen, respondents who have been in the helm of the offering services and also offering solutions for the last 30 to 40 years, and also technology company experts who have also realized the importance of how this technology can really help in the medical device industry. So each of these inputs coming as a presentation will also be taken as a core of content to be also formulated as a report to also be shared with all the association heads that we had in the morning with respondents who have come from the Association of Oral Maxillofacial Surgeons Association. Then we had key respondents joining from Indian Orthopedic Association, likewise OPAI. So I think we see that discussions and inputs coming from sessions like these can definitely add a lot of value. And we're also trying to bridge a gap. 3D Graphy has been a consortium, ladies and gentlemen, and we've been promoting 3D technology for the last 8 years. And we have now a 360-degree platform with also a news platform, which is very, very sourceful in terms of making it an information source, because it's important to know what is the end user's requirement at times. So we also have activated our interest to see that the end user also come back with their inputs, sharing what is expected, and also technology companies sharing their insights on the subject, and also researchers and material science. Because more than the tool, it is also the materials that are going to be used for various implants and solutions. So let me introduce you all to Mr. Vivek Mangal Videkar, who is the founder of PH Pitkar, SH Pitkar, a company in orthopedic tools for almost 30-35 years. So very good afternoon to you, and thanks for your presence. And also, he is the session chair of this particular session, so I will leave it to him to take the course forward. Subsequent to all these presentations, ladies and gentlemen, and inputs coming from each of these gentlemen, we will also be having a session towards the end to have a conclusion with a discussion, of course, to see what all and how all we can fill that gaps in terms of what are the value propositions that we can offer eventually going forward with the technology. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and thank you, Vivek sir. Please, the chair is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shivu. I trust whenever I see you and I see I keep talking to you, the kind of energy levels that we get is completely different. So thank you very much for creating this platform where we all could really share, learn from each other, understand, and each one in the panel is almost a specialty technologist who is going to contribute to the system. So I sincerely thank you for this wonderful event and creating this platform and sort of move on from here, right? So my hashtag before I actually start is, mine is not going to be a very high funda, high technical presentation. My presentation is going to be a practical one, which is going to speak about what this technology can do good to us. It would be more orthopedic centric because obviously I am an orthopedic implant manufacturer. It can be grossly extrapolated to number of things, every medical device on this earth. There's no doubt about it. But I'm going to speak about where it started with, where it has moved on, and where probably it can hit. And if we understand where it is going to hit in the future, then obviously all the manufacturers like me are going to learn from this technologist, going to use it, adopt it, and make India proud, right? So let's move on with my small presentation, and then we could just go on. Okay, here we are. So my first presentation is going to be an overall overview. We all know what is 3D printing. I don't think anybody needs to be told what is 3D printing. It is nothing but additive manufacturing, and now there are multiple things coming up like additive and subtractive manufacturing and so on and so forth. The bottom line is generally everything in engineering industry today, we call this as a 3D printing technology for the sake of simplicity, right? And this technology has got diverse application in all the medical devices. You look at amputated food to be produced, 3D technology exists. You look at the dental treatment to be given, the 3D technology exists. You look at tumor processes which needs to be made as a specialty thing. This technology exists. The craniotomy applications. You look at revised orthopedic industry today where this can be act as additional jigs and fixtures. So there is probably everything on this earth that could be sort of made, developed by using the 3D printing technology. See, what is important for us to understand is what are the major milestones that we have seen with respect to 3D technology. And it's not a very old episodes. 1988 was the first commercial 3D printer was developed by Chakhal. So it is a development that started at 1988, has arrived at today in 2022, and probably it is going to burst. It is just going to spread out, and we all are going to be part of the mechanism. 1999, there was a first research team that created first bladder tissue by using 3D printing. So it's been 11 years from 1988 when the first printer was developed and the first bladder tissue was made. It was 11 years of dedicated research by many scientists, its application and so on and so forth. 2000 onwards, the medical field started looking at 3D very seriously. 2001 onwards, human bladder cultivation started working on it. And then obviously there came 2008 where the first full prosthetic leg was manufactured by using 3D printing. 2009 onwards, everything went on, and today you name the product and we all know, 3D printing is going to be the only answer for the time to come. So, point is for a layman, and this is not for the specialists who are on the panelist, but there is a large industry behind us, and we have to take this industry forward. We have to tell this industry that they have to move on. We talk of Make in India, we talk on making medical device in India to be the best in the world. But we've got to realize and understand that we are far behind the international world in terms of day-to-day manufacturing. We have technologies. I can name all of them who are here are a specialty technology centers. The point I'm saying is an average industry that makes medical devices. It's still not 100% proof to an extent that they can compete the CE marked and the US FDA products in international segments, which are high technology segments. And if we want to travel, we have to carry all the manufacturers with us who could use this totally deriving latest technology for their way of life. And unless they understand, they take it further. It's not, we are not going to achieve our ambition of being a best medical manufacturing hub in the world. And if we keep that as a target, we must understand what are the benefits of the system. And for a layman, I again speak of orthopedics, but for a layman, it basically started from, number of years back with an ideology that we make, one part. So for first prototypes of 4 or 5, let us get into a 3D printing. This is how this technology actually came to India. 3D printers were very expensive at that time. The industry had not grown. There were multiple issues, and it starts progressing. Initially, it was used for making 4 or 5 prototype samples. Arrive at a point, cross-check all your parameters, ensure dimensional accuracy, ensure assembly position, that everything done, then convert that into your routine production. That is where the technology actually started. Eventually, we arrived at a point where almost every kind of material is today available, and we are able to get every product by the 3D printing the way we want, in the accuracy, in the dimensioning, in the way we are looking at it. So the benefits to the medical device industry is not only for a small numbers. You look at any numbers that you want to make today, this technology is available. I will just run through few of the prominent things that probably I am aware about, and there is much larger applications that I'm going to show it, but this is just a way of life for everyone, so I'm trying to put it across. When you look at 3D technology, the 3D printing technology, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is the dental devices. We know one of my very close relative recently had about 8 new implantation of teeth, and the whole thing was based on 3D. I mean, the surgeon took all the dimensions based on their 3D mechanism. He took it, he made certain jigs and fixtures, he got converted into a dental application, and the whole the implantation of the teeth and the prosthetics was done. So for dental devices, all kind of prosthetics, braces, dentures, restorations, and the aligners, which actually gives the accurate positioning of the implant, all is done today by using 3D printing. Obviously, something which is very close to my heart is orthopedic implants. I'm into it day in and day out. So you look at implants that are made by 3D printing. This is one of the classic examples of total hip replacement cup which comes along with this, and this is something made by 3D printing today. There are a lot of manufacturers who are supporting these kind of manufacturings today, and obviously we do take help of these manufacturing centers to get what we want. So orthopedic is another big mechanism where the things are useful to us. I believe I've lost Okay. So craniotomy is third thing, where we know there are many patients who undergo decompressive craniotomy, and then having one size fits all helmets are not just doable. A specific customized making of helmets has become way of life. So this is another great application that opens up, And I believe probably all the possible hospitals are having this technology today, and there are a lot of people who supports making of these 3D printings already. Now, one of the key factors where we are entering is the surgical planning and the customized surgery. Now, this is where there is going to be a large potential coming up, other than what is already used for craniotomy and the dental things. We need to understand that you look at internal fixation mechanism. I'll give you a very classic example of this. You want a surgeon wish to put a plate in a particular position, which is very complicated. And if you look at this particular application, there are specific zigs that are made with 3D printing, and they are used in the live surgery. This is classic example of what we have done. And eventually the internal fixation device called as implant is put in based on all the guides that has been provided. This gives a very accurate maintenance of location, especially at a complicated places where fixation becomes a challenge. Same thing could be done for the external fixation devices instead of internal fixation devices. And moving further, there are a number of locations for replacement of hips, the prostheses which are done, which are customized specially. It is very important for us to understand that custom-based implant for tumor prosthesis and others is extremely, high technology requirement today. You go to Tata Institute of Fundamental Sciences, the way Dr. Ajay Puri does work, and if you go by the amount of work they do with this technology is amazing. So, this is a classic example of the whole tumor prosthesis could be made with 3D printing based on, the MRIs that are available with you, convert it into an implant and put it where it is required to be done. So, tumor prosthesis is another big setup where these kind of informations are required. And coming to the 3D printing of specialized enhanced surgical tools, there are many instrumentation which are not standard. You need a specific forceps which is based on certain application. You make certain hemostat, the scalpel handles, which are not, very normal shape. You need to create a specific device for a very high specific application. Now, all this is possible to be made with 3D printing, get into a very accurate dimensions and use it for the desired purposes. So, there could be a particular surgery which is rare of the kind. You need an instrument, and getting through a very regularized procedure of manufacturing may not be possible. So, this is where again you need to get into a 3D printing mechanism. Of course, when the 3D printing as a concept started, we all know that not all kinds of materials were available. Now today the technology is changing. All kinds of biomaterials are being made available. Tissue engineering has become way of life for 3D. There are blood arteries, people are working on heart valves, there are human ears and the noses people are working on. So there are number of organs, the number of human tissues on which today work is going on with respect to 3D printing, which all our specialists are going to give details on. But there are number of biomaterials which were not existing earlier is becoming way of life, and we all have to look at it very seriously. The most critical point that I would want to put it across to all my manufacturing colleagues is the technology will be explained by the specialist here. What we need to understand is in 2017, what was the capacity index of this application, and in 2027, how many times we are going to grow. And this growth of medical device is going to be grossly assisted by 3D printing technology. So if we are going to achieve by the standard CNC forum, by standard CNC programming, no. The technology is changing. We've got to use the latest available modalities to move on. We have to reduce our research and development time. We have to reduce our development process time. We have to reduce our manufacturing time if we all want to be competitive. And this particular graph is showing us the number of times growth that we are going to get if we use the technology that is coming our way. So, friends, I wouldn't speak too much. I'm just trying to tell my manufacturing friends that this is the way to go ahead. The technology specialists are here who are going to teach us what we are going to move on with. They are going to be our guide. We've got to move on by understanding the process of time. Where is this business heading towards? Where is medical device industry is heading towards? Where is this technology can take us in future? With this, I thank everyone for a patient hearing. I sincerely thank 3D Graphy for creating the platform that is wonderful and creating this environment which is wonderful for the exchange. Thank you very much. With my session complete, I would request Mr. Santosh Kumar, who is basically from additive manufacturing, and he's part of AMTZ, to take over the session, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful presentation from your side. Very glad to hear a lot of advancements and past things. I am sharing my screen. Good evening, everyone, and very excited to be part of this 3D Graphy event. I head the Center of Excellence for Additive Manufacturing in Medical Devices sector, established in AMTZ by Ministry of Electronics. Today I'll be touching upon the topics on 3D printing applications in biomedical optics. Generally, we speak on implants and tissue engineering and medical device components. This is one area where it's very recently advancing in research areas, which would see light in 3-4 years, and it's very useful for stepping up the imaging technology for medical devices. So with that introduction, that's my office. That's the Center of Excellence for Additive Manufacturing. And today's agenda would be to explain you why the Center of Excellence of Additive Manufacturing is very right fit in AMTZ. I'll explain you initially about that. How the COE AM is divided into different verticals to cater to the demand of additive manufacturing and helps the AM adoption in the country. Then I would lean into my actual topic, that is additive manufacturing in biomedical optical systems. So the main operations of the COE is divided into 4 different areas. The first and my favorite is engagement and collaborations, without which the adoption of AM is not very easy in India. For that matter, any technology now requires a lot of collaborations. Very happy to be part of this event, to see you all, many associations of orthopedic sector and prosthodontic healthcare people. The second operation that I have is incubation, supporting startups and actually enabling them to reach the product level, which is actually put up in the market and adopt to the AM technology. Of course, the research and development that my team would be specifically taking care of. Then one more important thing is about skill development training in additive manufacturing and material sciences. So this is the ecosystem of AMTZ that I was talking about. So basically, I'm trying to explain how the verticals of COE along with the ecosystem really helps in adopting the additive manufacturing in medical devices. So right from the rapid prototyping center to manufacturing of sensors, then laser printing center, animal research center, biomaterials center, organ generation center, EMI/EMC testing for medical devices, then acoustics and wireless testing, medical textiles, center for gamma irradiation for implant manufacturers, oxygen generation center. All these ecosystem that is established with a lot of vision is actually helping now to quickly pick up the additive manufacturing operations in medical devices. So with that introduction, so out of the 25 common scientific facilities we have in AMTZ, I'll touch upon 3 or 4 centers which closely work with the COE to help us in achieving our targets. So the first one is Biomaterials Testing and Characterization Center with over 75 equipment in 5 different laboratories. The biome is really helping us to work on the materials that are niche and suitable for AM. Then we have a large animal research center where the new materials have to be tested and set up for the clinical trials. Then we have the Gamma Sterilization Center for implant manufacturing. Then the accelerators, we have a couple of incubators already along with the COE incubator. So we have total 3 incubators already mentoring up to 60 startups. we are looking for new startups in COE. So the synergy of COEM is thus gained with all the help from the health technology assessments, biomaterials, gamma sterilization, animal research center, incubation, etc. So we recently are recognized as the WHO Collaborating Center for Health Innovations, first of its kind in the world. WHO has a lot of collaborating centers specific to certain disease or area, but as a whole, WHO Collaborating Center for Health Innovations is first one of its kind in the world. So we also have the World Trade Center Vishakhapatnam chapter established in the COE itself, along with the office of WHO. So that makes us from the national to global all centers working together in additive manufacturing. So with that introduction of the ecosystem, the Center of Excellence for Additive Manufacturing has multiple verticals. So we choose our verticals very carefully and strategically such that a medical device or a healthcare AM output is not left in the middle, such that we don't just work on the material or the characterization or the design. We help the innovators to complete their product. So with that strategy, we established the Material Coating Center, Polyethylene Extrusion Center, Polymer Technology Center, Material Analysis, along with Material Injection Molding, and Advanced Assembly Technology Center. So with 5 verticals and the ecosystem of AMTZ, our roadmap looks strong and confident. So in an Advanced Assembly Center is very, very important in medical technology because we make a lot of components, smaller components in additive manufacturing. Some are injection molded, but bringing them together is very important in medical technology. So this Advanced Assembly Center with simulation, automation, robotics, and surface processing is very helpful for completing your product. Coming to Polyethylene Extrusion Center, we are working on ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene material analysis in the beginning, and then we converted that into a translational product. Now we are able to extrude the UHMWP rods, and the center is also 13485 certified. So that's our second center. So these 2 centers are already functional under the COE. Out of the 11 centers that National Strategy of Additive Manufacturing wanted to establish in the country, ours is the first center to start operations and successfully produce the products. So we are inviting a lot of startups who work on different materials that go into biomedical implants, right from the titanium to cobalt, chromium, and platinum. Then we have the Metal Injection Molding Center, which can actually mold as small as 0.4 grams to 400 grams of different sizes. You can see the images, how small the parts are for different surgical instruments and tools here. So the metal-based products that we are concentrating and encouraging startups to take up are some of the medical equipment devices like surgical forceps, tweezers, strong heads, and surgical knife handles. Then the Polymer Technology Center is looking at different products right from the intraocular lenses, balloon catheters, vascular grafts, and face implants, and various other things that works with different polymers. So 3D printing in healthcare, definitely we are all listening to a lot of lecture presentations today, and I'm not going to dive deep into the knowledge which is already shared with more expert people than me, but I'll just touch upon that we have different critical care equipment in ICUs, and each of the instrument have definitely components that can be 3D printed. This was realized right from our COVID first wave, where we had to print a lot of components for ventilators in AMTZ itself. So from there, we saw that there are a lot of components for each of the device can be 3D printed to actually complete the product. So these are some of the products that we are working on in the additive manufacturing for medical devices as such. So in the center, you see a circle of different sized, different customized hearing aids. We have 3D printed implants, and we have heat exchange chambers which can be 3D printed. The blue color device you see on the bottom is actually the pocket ECG machine. Below knee prosthesis. Then we have dosimeter casings, laryngoscope blades, etc. We've all worked on this for our prototype designing and trying to scale up also. The other area where a lot of people would talk about is 3D bioprinting. There is various areas of focus that we can do is on bioinks, cross-linking technologies, synthetics, the supporting baths for the 3D bioprinting. So 3D bioprinting is another center which we have, which is called Origin, and right from in the medical devices also we had a lot of research going on, and also 3D bioprinting area also we had a lot of research going on. But today I'm going to touch upon a topic which is actually future and very important to touch upon, because when I'm talking about 3D printed optics that goes into the biomedical imaging system, we are talking about a lot of precision and distortion-free lenses that will help us in different devices like endoscopes, ophthalmoscopes, and colposcopes. So I'll just give you a brief what are the lenses that are being used in different lens systems and why 3D printing is required there, the complexity, how the 3D printing is actually can solve that, and some of the solutions that we are having right in front of us. So if you see the optics, right from the mass optics to glasses and lenses, and the precision optics and high-end optics like space and astronomy that uses lenses and photolithography. So they are of different sizes and all of them are optics, and the current manufacturing technology that we use is a very cumbersome technology, but it is adopted very deep. For example, if you take a lens system, if from our daily life, let us take a camera lens, and if you see the camera lens system, you have a lot of lenses grouped together here. So it's not a very easy system when you talk about lens system. We pick up a camera and click a button to capture our picture, but there is a lot of optics that is going on inside. So the issues when we bring in a lot of lens together, we need to understand the issues to solve them using additive manufacturing, and how we can solve it rightly is the idea. So when something we call as spherical aberrations, when the light rays defocus themselves, when they don't fall upon the focal point, and because the wavelength is dependent on the refractive index of the lens, they fall at different places, and so we experience aberrations. When they all fall at a single point, the image is very focused and we get the right image. Similarly, we have something called chromatic aberration. There are different wavelengths in the light, red, green, blue, etc. All of them are again dependent on the refractive index, and once it touches the lenses, they may diffract at different places. But when they fall at the right place, then we get a proper image. So we use a lens called aspheric lens, because the defocused rays have to be focused again. So we adopt something of this shape, which is called aspheric lens, helping us to put the light at one single focal point. So this is what we were looking at. We'll be looking at how we 3D print such kind of lenses using additive manufacturing. So these are different test cases at different planes of the light that is going past the manufactured lens. So these now you will be, so I hope you understood the challenges that we have when we bring in the traditionally manufactured lens together. So that's the complexity of a lens system. On the left hand side, you have a very sophisticated Raman microscopy system. On the right hand side, you have an endoscope, which is simpler but still complex. The traditional manufacturing starts right from the pre-processing, grinding, polishing, smoothing, figure correction, and post-processing. All these technologies act on the lenses, distorting its edges or reduce its lifetime, but they are thermally stable compared to the current 3D printing materials. And their shrinkage is also better when compared to additive manufacturing methods right now. So the area where we are rightly concentrating on is to reduce the shrinkage and see how we can adopt the AM in lens manufacturing. So these are the future applications that you see in the AR, VR sector. Also, you are going to have a lot of lens that is coming in, and we require mass production. We have very miniaturized optic lenses that are 3D printed in current research areas. On the left-hand side, you see an image under the microscope, which is like a small dot. It's a doublet lens system with 600 micrometer diameter. So these are the areas where lenses are going to get into in near future. So where is the 3D printing edge? As I was talking to you about the shrinkage during printing and thermal processing are the challenges for us in 3D printing right now. Also, when you are printing lenses and optical systems at that small scales, the resolution is very important. So from the literature and the research that happened in last 4 or 5 years, it is found that two-photon polymerization is a technique which uses liquid silica resin, which has higher curing speeds, better mechanical properties, and lower sintering temperatures, which is actually reducing the temperature. Reducing the shrinkage. So we were able to print a lot of optical surfaces: flat, spherical, aspherical, freeform, and discontinuous surfaces. So these are some of the images of the 3D printed lenses of different types, right from the plane lens to concave, convex, etc. Alternatively, you can see the half printed lenses, which is showing the 3D printed uh, mass in the lens of different shapes and sizes. So this is the surface roughness image of a 3D printed lens, which is around 5 to 6 nanometers. On the second image that you have on your right is a spherical lens where the focus is not yet achieved yet. So when we print with the aspherical lens that I showed in a couple of slides before, we were able to achieve better focus. And the center image is what is the designed shape of the lens. We are not yet 100% there, but it's definitely, this result is very encouraging for us to go for 3D printing in optical lens systems, because the error is almost less than a wave, and it really encourages to go for the 3D printing of lenses in the future. So these are again some of the images that are 3D printed. On the left hand side, where it is marked DA, you can see it's a system of lenses 3D printed together, which is otherwise not possible by traditional manufacturing. In traditional manufacturing, making a discontinuous surface is very, very hard. We need a set of lenses which can be only 3D printed with precisely aligned together. So that's why we need to adopt additive manufacturing techniques in lens printing. So the results you can see as on the bottom image, the focus is better. The image actually you see in red color is housefly wing, which is imaged with the 3D printed lenses. And we have a Fresnel lens that is used in telescopes and lighthouses that is 3D printed, which is functioning to the required imaging. On the right hand top, you have a 1 micrometer resolution of gratings that are printed. So we were able to print with 2-photon polymerization techniques a variety of lens systems. That's what I would like to show up on this slide. And this is again one of the great achievements where one of the lenses is movable and both are 3D printed. We were able to achieve, by moving one of the lenses, basically you are increasing the spot size for your different biomedical applications. So on the right hand side, you see a black and white strip, which is actually, while moving the second lens, we are actually achieving a better spot size, tailoring it to our application. The blue color strip you see is actually the simulated strip, and the actual image is quite near to it. I think with a lot more care, we would be able to achieve the precision in imaging optics. So in conclusion of my topic, I wanted to iterate on the point that 3D printing is very much required in the optical lenses system to improve the image stability of endoscopes, ophthalmoscopes, and microscopy, spectroscopy techniques. So the 3D printed optics would revolutionize the biomedical imaging systems and light manipulation applications in healthcare. So that's my topic, and thank you for your patience listening. And that's the image of TMTZ. You're all welcome to visit anytime. Meet me for any collaborations in additive manufacturing sector. We would all make it together. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santosh, for a wonderful presentation. And I mean, I'm not aware how many of the speakers have seen AMTZ. I've been personally a routine visitor to this place. Dr. Jitendra Sharma, who has conceptualized the whole thing and built up till today, is an amazing platform. You go there, there is probably everything available for the medical device industry. You name the thing and it is organized. I remember about a year ago, I had a small chat with Dr. Jitendra Sharma about creating UHMWP rods, because we all import it and it's very expensive and the small industry do not afford it. And in 1 year, this January, they've already commissioned the plant. UHMWP rods are already in the manufacturing. and the supplies are on. I'm telling you, their target times, the way they go on, the way this AMTZ works is out of this world. No technology is impossible for them. And your presentation had been great, but I thought I must mention to all the concerned who are listening, to tell them that this is the technology available there. Let us move out, go to them, and probably everything on this earth is available in one shot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the words, Vivekji. Over to the next speaker.
Yeah. So, should we look at if there are any questions with respect to this speaker, or should we take that at the end of the show?
Sure. Ready to take the questions if anything is.
I think at the end of the session we can take it.
Yeah, that's better. So
that is better.
Overall, all will be available, and if anybody wants to have a question, we can go on. So I thank Mr. Santosh Kumar, and I request Mr. Jagannath from BFW to please come forward, take up the stage straight away.
Yeah. I'll just share my screen. Before that, for a better bandwidth, I'll switch off the camera. So there was excellent, presentation prior to mine, which was mind-boggling. Starting from micrometer itself is a very tough number to achieve, but nanometric level lens manufacturing, aberration, so on and so forth. So my name is Jagannath, and I would thank 3D Graphy for providing this platform to talk about 3D printing. So we just launched a laser-based DED machine this month in the beginning, 1st of June. So we are here. So I would just like to emphasize on revolutionizing manufacturing with Smart Factory. Enhance your 3 Ps, that is productivity, performance, and the precious time. This is becoming more and more, order of the day. M2 Next is a subsidiary of BFW. So most of you may be knowing who is BFW. Is number one machine tool company in the country with 6 decades of experience. Started with German engineering and with localized operations. Now we are present almost everywhere. Starting from aerospace, auto, die and mold, railways, defense, medical, oil and gas, and so on. We offer subtractive machines. Those are called machine tools. More than 450 models. We also offer factory automation products. Now coming to overview of M2 Next, which embraced this 3D printer. The background is we started our journey with Industry 4.0. We have additive manufacturing as one of the platforms. Our primary business started with digital transformation, where we started acquiring data and see how do we do data analytics, and as a result monitor the performance of the equipment on the shop floor. So we also do a lot of automation, and we do process re-engineering to bring in better performance results on the shop floor. So since everything was connected with metal, and we have been working on the metal subtractive mode, we said we also should look at additive mode. That is how we embraced additive manufacturing 6 to 8 months ago, and now we have a product which is made in India. So we are brand agnostic and offer complete turnkey solutions in manufacturing. So just to show you the portfolio, we related to medical, we do AGV automation, where without touching the object, the medical items can be moved from one location to another location, which is designed, developed, and conceived and manufactured by us. And in additive, we have hybrid and 3D printing platform. In the hybrid, we do subtractive and additive as well. So bringing a good contour and a finish to the object, typically which could be a titanium implant, where a lot of post-processing has to be done in the current technology with respect to the surface finish, can be achieved on the equipment itself. While we have robotic and gantry looking at the kind of the size of the object and so on. Now, just to give a background, I think most of you are very, very clear about what is happening in the industry, but just wanted to lay one emphasis here on the implants is used for creation of customized patient-specific prosthetics, inserts, and anatomical models. In the sense, as has been presented, that every human is different and unique, So the order of the day is that instead of having a generic part and then trying to modulate that part to bring it to the required level, you start the part itself as an unique part for every human being. That's becoming more and more order of the day, used for health restorative items in hardware. So what we are emphasizing on laser DED is a quick turnaround time from scan to real implant. What we are trying to say is, if you have a scanned part of a broken bone or a fractured bone or some kind of an implant, what is required, we could simply take that, process it, print it, finish it, and then have the part ready. So that's what is the objective and the emphasis on laser DED with our product platform related to medical. So laser DED based 3D printing is showing true signs of disruption with the healthcare industry, and with scope for major innovation within the medical field to suit highly customized near net shape medical implants. This is what we are trying to bring it out on our product, to see that how do we get the right implant or the right object which is required in the medical domain, to see that there is no post processing which needs to be done. After you print the part, you can directly go in for the surgical process. So I would just like to take you through what is DED, which is direct energy deposition, as majority of you might be knowing. There are two processes here to take the benefit of the size and the speed. The powder fed DED is the most accurate, part what you can produce, where the powder size could vary from 50 micron to 150 micron. So when you have very intrinsic build to be made on the existing part, or when you want to make a very fine contour, you use the powder based DED, which has high power laser, which is used to melt metal powder supplied to the focus of the laser beam. So by moving the XY table, you could create XYZ table, you could create a contour and build the part. In case of metal wire DED, where you want to really have a bigger object with a very high speed build requirement, you would use a metal wire DED, and the feed wire will be through a nozzle that is melted by a laser, again using inert gas. Shielding in either an open environment or a sealed chamber. So example, if you are talking of a titanium implant where the oxidation needs to be very low, you would require a sealed chamber where you can run a wire through a nozzle and start building the object by melting it through the laser. So these are typically 6-axis articulated robot, or a 3 or a 4-axis servo gantry, or a machine tool. Typically, where is DED used? If you see, it is used in coatings, repair, hybrid manufacturing applications, and so on. And the chamber for particularly titanium and above material where the oxidation levels are very high, a closed chamber would be required, where we run an argon gas inside the chamber, wherein the atmosphere pressure could be little higher than what it is, which would be 1.08. And then you build the part to avoid oxidation of the part. And once the part is built, you machine the part and then take it out as a finished object, which would be the final part for the usage. So now let us look at what kind of platform we have. So we have a Photon series hybrid machine, which has an additive and a subtractive capability on this machine. So you could build the part on a 5-axis machine and then start machining that part to the required contour. The accuracy is what you could achieve on the contours could be as low as 3 to 5 microns with a surface finish of less than a micron. So which means that when you build an implant, where the post processing what is traditionally required can be overdone, can be overcome from the scan point to the finished point. So I would just like to show you a video where how the part is being built. So on the right, what you are seeing is the part which is being built by the additive head, and on your left you see the spindle which has a tool. And once the part is built, the head will retract back, and the machining tool would come down and start machining the part. So typically, whatever contour you follow in building the part on the additive side, the same contour will be followed by the subtractive side with a tool which could be a ball nose end mill to create a required contour, which could be controlled in microns on the machine on a 3D Cartesian 3D polar coordinate. Now, just to give you how the machine looks like, I would like to run a video which shows the internal side of the machine. The external, on the right, you see the CNC control. On the left, you see the additive control. And this is like a shop floor equipment which has got full ability to build and machine any part which is of any contour. So you can see 3 linear axis and 2 rotary axis, which can build any type of curvature, and then you can do any kind of contour cutting after you build the part. So now you are seeing the part being built by the additive head. And then you can see now the part is being finished by the subtractive head. So this particular platform is made in India, readily available now. We have done a lot of parts, right from stainless steel to titanium, which is ready for going into the market and quite affordable. We can even look at the pricing could be 40-50% lower than what is available internationally, with the same class of input elements what are used, and the engineering which goes in has got 6 decades of experience. Now we come to the second platform, which is a robotized based 3D printing technique. Here the versatility of this product is that you can go on a 3D space of building any contour of object with 8 axes, which has 6 axes on the robot and 2 rotary axes, which practically makes it possible to build any kind of contour you would want. And this brings in a lot of versatility in terms of the part orientation, where the voluminous space available is 1 meter radius, what it can take comfortably, whereas the earlier platform was something like 450 by 450 by 300 was the volume what it could take. But whereas here the building happens and the subtractive, you have to take it out and do it on a machine. So some of the parts which we could easily make, you can see that the jaw implants, the dental surgical guides, these typical accuracy levels can be achieved on the subtractive mode when after you build. The femoral stem, again the finishes can be made where the post process need not be done. Once you build, you can machine it. The skull cranial, the hip cups, the leg prosthesis, the hand prosthesis, all this could be built and done the subtractive on the platform. So what are the benefits and the advantages? Customization and personalization with superior finish, optimal cost efficiency, enhanced productivity with versatile finishing capability, democratization and collaboration, wide variety of materials, wire and powder to enhance adaptation of DED technology, in the sense that you could use powder for very fine contour and wire for very fast build, which is available on a single machine on the same platform, where you could switch between wire and powder dynamically while you are building. So some of the laser DED applications, what we can see is different material, depends on different material and layers. So most commonly used is on patient-specific orthopedic implant, the specific surgical guides, mini plates for free flap fixation, customized prosthetics, coating on top of implants to enhance application of and life of. So coating on top of implants is something which is little critical, but on this machine we can use a nozzle which is extremely high speed laser cladding, is what is called EHLA. We could even do cladding on top of implants to bring in better life in terms of its performance. So future ahead, 3D printing will empower the healthcare industry and professionals to unleash the potential to offer the best possible patient care. The future lies in point of care, 3D printing with innovative solutions closer to the patients, which is scan to implant. So most advanced 3D printing solution is anticipated for complex implants. In situ printing, in which implants are printed just before surgery, is anticipated in the future trend, which is already possible now With a lot of CAM modeling coming up, we could post the CAM model, what is created to the near net shape, and post it to the machine control, where you can start printing and machining the object. This will advance us to in situ repair of partially damaged, diseased, and fractured bones, which is quite possible. So, in conclusion, I would like to emphasize that hybrid laser-based DED additive solutions can realize the implants to the finest contour with versatile metal range to suit every need from scan to implant. So, with this, I would like to end my session, and thank you very much for giving this opportunity, 3D Graphy, and the patient audience for hearing it out. So, thank you very much. This ends my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Jagannath. It was a wonderful presentation. And I suppose DFW offers everything that probably an industry needs today. And more importantly, it is developed in India.
In India, yes.
Yeah, so the support mechanism for the machines is much better. And a combination of additive and subtractive, setup together is a huge thing for a very complex and complicated shapes to be reproduced in high tensile titanium or high tensile stainless steel material. So
Yes.
thank you very much for all the information. I suppose the next presentation is going to be from Mr. Praveen Gurav of the ARC Info Solutions. So I request you to please take over the platform.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. Can you see my screen, and am I audible?
Yeah, we can see your screen and you are completely audible. There's no problem.
Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. Good afternoon. I'm Praveen Gurav. I'm product manager for additive manufacturing at ARK Info Solutions. In today's session, I'll be sharing my views about 3D printing for medical devices. In this session, I will take you through brief about 3D printing process and its workflow, followed by role of 3D printing in medical devices design cycle, then 3D printing applications and 3D printing technology for medical devices, benefits of 3D printing and medical devices. I will put a lot of insights about medical device value chain. I have compiled a lot of case studies, though there has been a lot of material available globally. I have selected a few case studies, and I will take you through what are the challenges faced by these companies and how they have addressed those challenges using 3D printing as a technology. And lastly, I will take you through the introduction of my company. So to start with 3D printing process and workflow, as most of us know, the input to a 3D print is a CAD model. This is a 3D CAD model, which is given to a pre-processing software. In this software, we can give input in the form of STL file format or CAD neutral file format or even native CAD file format. The software internally processes this CAD file and give that as an input to the 3D printer. And on the right hand side, in the upper part of the presentation slide, you can see the final object which has been 3D printed. So if you look at in the down part of the presentation slide, so there are the inputs for 3D printing process is a material and the CAD file which has been given as an input to a 3D printer. And then finally we get the object which is 3D printed. Moving on, if we look at what is the role of 3D printing in medical devices, so first of all, for that we need to understand what is the product development life cycle for devices, medical devices. It starts with idea validation, then it goes to design, then comes the prototyping of the product testing, business planning, pilot production and manufacturing. So depending upon the device and its application, the design cycle may vary, but this is the general product development cycle which has been used in this industry. So if we look at which stage 3D printing is used, so that includes rapid prototyping, then pilot production, and manufacturing, which could be a batch or a serial production. So in these three applications, so what and where 3D printing is used. So 3D printing is used for rapid prototyping, where the various design iterations are tested, or for look and feel they are printed. Then production parts, as I said, it could be a batch or serial production. Then fixtures of the medical devices which are being manufactured or being printed, those are 3D printed. Then for clinical training and education purpose, medical devices, those are again 3D printed. Then surgical planning with the help of medical devices. So these devices are printed. Surgical guides and toolings are 3D printed, and models which are used in medical device development. So in this slide, I will take you through insights of these applications, each application. So if we start with rapid prototyping, so in this application, the key benefit which a customer get is accelerated time to verification and validation of the product, and the product can be improved, which is a medical device. It can be improved for fit, form, and functional. So various technologies which are offered in generally by world leader Stratasys, which include FDM, PolyJet, SAF, P3, and SLA. So these technologies gives us lot of solutions. So the solution which include lot of material variety, because each device would need need to be used in certain different environmental conditions, and each device would have certain different application. So using these technologies, we get biocompatible material, we get multi-material, multicolor parts, high performance thermoplastic, and high temperature materials. So what value we get after doing the rapid prototyping? It includes more design revisions in less time, because once we develop a prototype optical device, the company would be able to identify whether it will really work or not. And in case if it is not working, they can do the design revision. And since 3D printing takes very less time, so company can do the lot of design revisions using 3D printing. In the early stage of the product design cycle, 3D printing helps to eliminate the failures through rapid iterations. That is the value addition. It also helps to create the functional parts for testing. These 3D printed prototypes can be very well functionally tested for the conditions in which they will be actually used. Then these rapid prototypes can be used for communicating ideas, gain the feedback from the end user or physicians. These protos are also used for validating design very quickly, accurately, and cost effectively. So the next application includes device validation and verification. So in this case, 3D printing adds key benefit of improving device design, improve the optimized device design, I would say, and accelerating the development and save cost by testing the medical device at early stage. Here, using different technology, we get multi-material, multicolor parts. We get rubber-like parts, or even we get rigid parts, which are can be tested as an end-use applications. So the value addition here, which includes early design parameters, are statistically validated after these parts are 3D printed, and the organization can assess the performance by performing various tests on the 3D printed parts. If we look at next application, it is manufacturing aids such as jigs and fixtures. Those are 3D printed. So here the benefit is cost-effective production of low-volume, high-value parts, as well as fit-for-purpose tools such as jigs and fixtures. Again, there is a material variety depending upon the application. We can use them. The value addition here includes early clinical trials of those products, commercial launches, and eliminating the expensive tooling of the parts. So jigs and fixtures really help in manufacturing a product. With the help of 3D printing, the expensive tooling cost is eliminated. Also, one can move quickly from prototype to the final product printing, and various parts can be consolidated. The next application includes physician training, education, and demonstration. So whatever the medical device which has been printed, it can be tested. It can be given as on a very small quantity to lot of as a small audience to test the medical device and to get their experience about whether it is performing well or not. So all these devices could be 3D printed, and based upon their feedback, again modifications can be done, and it would 3D printed parts would be very less costly because they are eliminating the tooling and rest of the actual manufacturing cost associated with it. So the next application is production application, where using 3D printing, we get the batch or serial production. We reduce the product design cycle and the manufacturing cycle. In this case, we get the strong material, biocompatible material, depending upon the medical device which is being 3D printed. And it can be used for batch production and manufacturing of the completely personalized devices. So this was more about application of 3D printing in medical devices. So if we look at which 3D printing technologies are available for medical devices. So to start with, there is stereolithography, selective laser sintering, fused deposition modeling, which is commonly known as FDM technology, and then metal 3D printing. So this is just a general compilation of the data. If we look at desktop and benchtop 3D printers for SLA, SLS, and FDM technology, so these are up to 400 mm. But if we look at industrial grade printers, in case of stereolithography technology, we can print parts up to 1.5 meter and so on. For using selective laser sintering technology, we can print larger part up to 600, 700 mm. Using FDM technology, industrial printers, we can print parts up to 1 meter. And in case of metal 3D printer, those are normally workshop based or production based printers, which can print parts up to 400 by 400 by 400 mm. This is just the general compilation of the build volume. If we look at the materials, so in case of SLA technology, we have resins, which are basically thermosetting plastics. We have standard engineering materials available on SLA technology, and then castable, dental, and medical compatible materials. So this technology is typically ideal for prototype requirements, then where we need a very tight tolerance, smooth surface finish, then molds, tooling patterns, and medical models, functional parts can be very well printed using SLA technology. In case of SLS technology, the materials available nowadays includes engineering thermoplastics. Typically, these are nylon and composite material. These are biocompatible, and these can be sterilized as well. So SLS technology typically used in case of printing, 3D printing of the complex geometrics, then functional prototypes, short run or batch manufacturing, then orthotics and prosthetics. So moving on, in case of FDM technology, there are standard thermoplastics which are available, such as ABS, PLA, and their various blends are available. So FDM technology typically used basically in case of proof of concept, low cost, and this is one of the technology which is used for low cost prototyping application. Moving on, the next one is in case of metal, the materials which are available include stainless steel, various grades of stainless steel, tool steel, titanium, cobalt, chromium, and aluminum. So metal technology gives us strong, durable parts, and which has complex geometries. So this is just a brief about the 3D printing technologies which are used in medical devices. So if we look at what benefits 3D printing bring on the table for, in case of medical devices, that includes the reduced cost, because we are doing iterations early in the design stage itself. So it eliminates the, necessity, it eliminates and helps us to arrive at a foolproof design at early stage in the design cycle. It reduces the product development cycle, entire product development cycle of a product. It helps to increase the speed at every stage of the medical device value chain. It helps an organization to improve the profitability, and it enables agile market responsiveness, in case of if you look at in very recent years, a year back or so, in case of COVID-19 scenario, 3D printing has helped a lot to print many 3D printed parts which are used for even COVID-19 test or nasal swab and so forth and so on. So there is a video. I will run it through a timeless. I will take you through a timeless video where how 3D printing can be used in medical devices. So this is one of the medical device which is printed. Here it is being post-processed. So rapid prototyping, as I said in the earlier slide, this is one of the application. This is casing of the medical device. Then it is being checked for the accuracy, the surface finish of the part being checked. Then this refers to the preclinical validation of the medical device. So this particular device is typically entirely 3D printed part. The standard metals are bought in, but rest of the plastic parts are completely 3D printed. And nowadays it is used, you can see the medical device in case of production, manufacturing or end use applications, it is being used widely. In case of batch or serial production. So this was more about the video. Now I will take you through the medical devices value chain. So this is very generic value chain for a medical device which is being developed. It will vary depending upon the device which is being considered and application of that device actually into the industry. So if we look at so this value chain starts from research and development of the device, then preclinical testing, then production aids. Basically, these are jigs and fixtures which are being manufactured. Then what is the feedback of this device from the physician or the actual end user, and then finally incorporating this feedback and going for the manufacturing of the device. So where 3D printing solutions help in case of medical device value chain, it helps in every stage of the medical device value chain. So in case of research and development, it helps in rapid prototyping. Then preclinical testing, we can test the 3D printed device under realistic device conditions. Then in case of production aids, it is jigs and fixtures which we can 3D print. Then when the marketing or physician's feedback is sought, so they can see the 3D printed part, and based upon that, those changes can be incorporated. We can go for batch production, which will be the finally manufacturing phase of the medical device value chain. So I will take you through each step by step of this value chain and how 3D printing helps or what benefit it offers at each stage of the medical device value chain. So to start with research and development, so on the left hand side, you can see this is the surgical tool which is produced by Medtronics. So they use 3D printing in research and development stage for rapid prototyping. So that help them to accelerate the time to verify and validate the product. They can do more design revisions in less time. They can eliminate the failures. They created the functional parts and those were tested, and they could able to communicate ideas and gain physicians feedback. So if we move to the next stage, which is preclinical testing. So depending upon the application of the medical device, some devices require preclinical testing. So here 3D printing helps to improve the device design by testing on clinically relevant environment. Here the statistical validation of the device is done. Then customized models are assessed for performance under full range of the environmental conditions, and based upon that, the feedback is sought and respective design changes are done. So if we move to the next stage, which is production aids. So in this case, the 3D printing helps to identify fit for purpose tools, jigs, fixtures. So here on the left hand side, you can see this is the pre-precision tray from Wollongong University. which is printed using biocompatible material. So here in this phase of the medical device value chain, 3D printing helps to quickly develop and cost effectively develop the jigs and fixtures. The company can manage the digital inventory, and like they can accordingly go for the use the biocompatible materials and which are sterilizable using ETO or gamma radiation, and print these jigs and fixtures. So in case of, like as I said, for tooling, 3D printing helps to reduce the tooling cost by 60 to 75%. And deploying tooling in hours is possible instead of waiting for entire tool for that medical device being developed by using traditional methods. Also, 3D printing helps to reduce the scrap, rework, and retooling. So these are the biggest advantage of the 3D printing. If we go to the next stage, which is marketing feedback. So based upon these medical devices which are 3D printed are given to the surgeons or the end user applications. And once they use it, based upon their feedback, these devices are used even for training. Based upon their feedback, the devices modification is done. Even some liquid can be flow through these devices, because some parts are based upon technology which is used for 3D printing. Leak-proof devices are also built, and those are tested. So moving on to the last phase of the medical device value chain, which is manufacturing. So using 3D printing, as you see on the left hand side, this is the screen housing from Assist Medical, which is produced entirely 3D printed using ABS material, except the screen part. So here in the manufacturing stage, 3D printing helps to produce low volume, high value parts. Cost effective manufacturing is done. Expensive tooling is eliminated. Quick product design cycle, and it helps to produce the organic complex geometries which is difficult to manufacture using traditional methods. So in case of series production, you can see the parts which are produced using 3D printing on the right hand side, both the images. So this reduces the product development cycle and manufacturing cost. So if we look at what solutions are available for in case of 3D printing of medical devices, it includes printers. These are some of the images of the printers. Then there are materials are available. And the post processing, which is quite easy. And the technologies include FDM, polyjet, selective absorption fusion, stereolithography, and P3, which is programmable photopolymerization. These are available in case of plastic 3D printed medical devices. And for metal technology, there are like the selective laser melting and laser DAD, which are already available. Moving on to the next part of the presentation, which is more on the material. So in case of medical devices, there are a lot of conditions in which they need to be used. So if you look at some devices required heat resistant material, those are already available with us. Biocompatible material, chemical resistant, UV stable material, materials which has high strength, transparency, flame retardant, rubber like material, rigid, then elastomeric, and static dissipative. So these materials, there is a variety of materials available in 3D printing of the 3D printing domain, and these parts are used using these materials. So moving on to the next part of my presentation, which is medical devices case study. So the first case study is from Labomed company, which is based in India. They have an office in Gurgaon. So this company is into production of surgical zoom microscope. So you can see the images. These are 3D printed parts on the right hand side. Both the images. These are different, microscopes. And this company faced a challenge of accelerating the design cycle and improving the product design, as well as they wanted to find out the alternative to the outsourcing of the prototype, because outsourcing a lot of times create a confusion, because the supplier needs to understand what exactly the customer needs, as well as it is a time-taking process, and in some cases it is intellectual property which the organization do not want to be outsourced. So here the solution which they used was a FDM 3D printer. So 3D printing helped them to do several design iterations, and these were tested so that they can arrive in a very short time on the final design of the product. So also using 3D printing, they could innovate and create new designs. They can try various design variations early in the design cycle, and 3D printing helped them to reduce the cost and lead time. So the impact was 96% lead time saving per part and 53% cost saving per part. So this was a huge benefit which Labomed could get using 3D printing. The next case study is from Medtronic. So here, Medtronic, they use 3D printing in their US office, where the challenges they faced was they wanted to quickly prototype the medical devices. They were looking for combining two surgical tools to fasten the set screws on a corrective implant on a vertebra. So they used the FDM technology, and they could do the testing of the 3D printed device, as well as they could improve the design, and they have seen a lot of saving in terms of time and money, and improvised communication with the help of earliest adoption of the 3D printing in their design cycle of the medical device. The next case study is from Instrumentation Laboratory. So basically, this organization is a manufacturer of. So the challenge they faced was difficulty in conceptualizing the CAD model. It was a time-consuming activity for them, and because the final part included so many parts, so they were looking and concentrating only on expensive parts, and they were not able to look at redesigning the smaller parts, and they wanted to achieve the greater cost reduction per project. So these all challenges they could able to solve with the help of 3D printing. They use a Straxis FDM technology. The benefit which they got, which includes reduced manufacturing cost, was 40%. This is quite high, and they could also reduce the 80% cost reduction in case of the injection molded parts as compared to this prototyping enabled them with the help of 3D printing. So on the right hand side, you can see the part which has been 3D printed. Next case study is from Organised. So this company is into wearable auxiliary device. Basically, this device is used to monitor and analyze electromyogram signals of a patient. So the challenge they face included complicated and very precise designs which they were looking for, because these are wearable devices on a patient, and they wanted to reduce the outsourcing cycle. Earlier, for outsourcing, it was taking 4 weeks for them with their supplier, and they wanted to reduce it so that the validation process of the device can be done. They use FDM 3D printers. The benefits which they got include improved quality of the prototype, reduced prototype production from days into days, actually, instead of into like a single day or 2 days based upon the device design. Instead of earlier, it was 4 weeks. They could also use 3D printing for not only prototype but for jigs and fixture 3D printing as well. So here you can see the image of the device which is being 3D printed. So next case study is from QED. So here this company faced challenge in terms of creating the rapid prototyping to test design ideas. The cycle time was very high. You can see the part on the right hand side. They wanted to produce low volume batches of the parts. They use Porter's 3D printer from Stratasys. This company produces MRI coil housing. This is the part, MRI coil housing. They could produce this part and as well as mechanical structures which are like fitting into the part coil. So mechanical structures, they printed basically these structures using metal technology. So they could design and print customizable production fixtures using 3D printing, and they could do lot of design iterations. So the impact was they could able to save 75% of the cost. Next case study is from RTM. This is basically they were facing challenges with respect to developing an accurate and durable prosthesis mold. So they use FDM technology. By using this technology, they can go to the manufacturing cycle from scan to design and print in a digital environment. They could able to save the time, and these molds were very precise, which were 3D printed, customizable, as 3D printing is known for that. These were durable and time and cost effective. So they could able to reduce 93% in turnaround time. Full turnaround time. So next case study is from UPSA. So these are the parts on the right hand side. You can see. So this company, they wanted to save on the manufacturing cost, reduce the inventory which is required, and they were producing low volume batches of the parts and machine parts basically. With the help of Porter's 450 machine and using ABS grade material, they could create lightweight machine parts. They could also do multiple design iterations, and they could do the assembly consolidation. So that was also one of the biggest advantage. The impact was they could develop 70% lighter parts. So in all, reducing the cost per part, and they could be able to save 90%, 95% of the cost saving. So the next case study is from Nidec Technologies. So this company is into surgical eye equipment development. This is one of the largest company. You can see this is the surgical eye equipment which is generally used to test the eyes of a patient. So the challenge was they wanted to develop the fully functional prototype, and which precisely replicate the final product. So they wanted to optimize the prototyping process and accelerate the clinical validation. As I said, the medical device value chain earlier, the process which I explained. So they wanted to optimize that, and they wanted to reduce the lead time and prototyping costs. So they used Object 500 Onyx 3D printer from Stratasys, and the benefits they got include they could reduce the design cycle. They could clinically evaluate the product. There was 75% saving in terms of the cost of the development of the product, and 50% saving in terms of the time of development of this product using 3D printing. So this is again one of the case study. This is the casing of the medical device, in which there are a lot of parts in the electronic circuit is being put in. So this is 3D printed part. This is from cardiovascular system. This company develops the medical device for coronary and artery diseases. So they wanted to simulate complex devices. That was their challenge. The benefit was they could easily iterate weekly and obtain feedback from the 3D printed parts. They could perform benchmark tests on the printed parts. They could recreate most challenging devices for the customer, and they could also 3D print the jigs and fixtures quickly in-house and delivering quality and efficiency. The next case study is from SIG, which is a previous company. You can see it here on the side. Known as innovative and medical device solve unmet clinical challenges. They developed drug delivery system. So they were facing challenges in development of this delivery system, and they wanted to make it simpler and adopt 3D printing to reduce design iterations. So they use Object 350 3D printer. The inhaler developed by them, which contains 80% of the 3D printed parts, and which was very successful when it was clinically tested. And now they are going for the commercial production. So 3D printing helped them to iterate part design quickly, and it was easily that they clinically tested. They use biocompatible material for 3D printing. Moving on to the next part of my session, if we look at, these are the global customers from various domains. If we look at in healthcare, there are Johnson & Johnson, Medtronic, Jacobs, and NHS. So the list is too long, where 3D printing has been used and there are several case studies or use cases are available, and customers has got lot of benefits of earliest adoption of 3D printing in their product development cycle. So moving on to the last part of my session, it is about my organization. So ARK, we provide strategic 3D printers for plastic 3D printing solutions, which is based upon 5 different technologies. Stratasys is a world leader, which is a 30-year-old company and developer and founder of the FDM technology. Then we have SLM, which is used for metal 3D printing, and we do have Polyga, which is for 3D scanning applications. So we have 80,000 plus customers across India. We are present in 100 plus cities, and we have 350 plus experts. We are headquartered in Noida. If we look at Indian customer base, so this is a glimpse of our customers: Stryker, Polymed, and then Boston Scientific, and so on. So these are some of the customer appreciation letters. And this view of our experience center at Noida, where we have all the technologies in the 3D printing available with us, through which we support our customers. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, I'm open for the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Praveen. It was excellent presentation. Probably my counterparts who would really want to know details of this technology, how does the whole thing work, every part, nook and corner of the technology. I think this was the presentation. Thank you very much for the same. The questions, obviously, we'll take it at the end for everybody. I would thanks again, and I would request Mr. Sushil Mane from Altair to take up the next presentation. Please.
Hello, sir. Yes, sure. Let me share my presentation. So, a very good afternoon to Mr. Shibu, Mr. Vivek, Santosh Kumar, Mr. Jagannath, as well as Mr. Praveen Gurau, and the rest of the audience here who is now part of this conference on how 3D printing technology is actually changing the biomedical industry, right? It is really a pleasure to be part of this conference. We have actually presented various simulation technologies in previous conferences that 3D Graphy has organized, and this is probably our 4th or 5th partnership with them. So thanks, Mr. Shibu, once again for allowing us to be part of your wonderful conference. So with that, let me start my presentation, and my presentation will revolve around how 3D simulation technology is helping the medical device industry. I am part of Altair, and Altair is a global company based out of US. It is almost like 35 years since the inception of Altair, and since then Altair has been developing a lot of 3D simulation technology for various market segments, right from, let's say, automotive, aerospace, the medical industry, heavy industry, and so on. And all these different simulation tools are widely used by engineers to design and develop various kinds of mechanical as well as electromechanical systems. With this quick introduction, let me quickly jump onto the first few introductory slides. This is our vision statement from the founder and CEO, Mr. Jim Scarpa, which basically talks about how the entire customer decision making that is currently happening at various organizations is getting transformed with the use of simulation, data analytics, as well as high performance computing. When I'm talking about simulation, it is all computer-based simulations. Some of them are basically filament-based, non-filament-based, and similar to these kinds of analysis tools. Apart from that, there's a lot of new algorithms which are coming in. What we know of are the artificial intelligence and machine learning technology, which is helping in the design and development of a lot of these complex mechanical systems, right? So data analytics is a big thing going forward. And of course, to really run all these complex simulations and do a lot of data analytics on these complex mechanical systems, we need high performance computing, right? So this convergence of simulation, data analytics, and high performance computing is going to really transform how customers are going to make design decisions. As far as the solution portfolio is concerned, from Altair, we have different simulation tools which help engineers to design, model, and visualize various different mechanical, medical, as well as biomedical kind of devices. Once you model and define all the different materials and the boundary conditions to the finite problem, engineers do various kinds of physics simulations. It could involve, let's say, simulations related to the mechanisms of the whole system. It could also involve, let's say, doing a lot of structural simulation to understand what are the stresses, deformations in the linear as well as the non-linear domain based on the kind of loading conditions. A lot of thermal as well as fluid simulations are also being done in the medical industry. So all that are part of the portfolio on physics simulation. With regards to data analytics, you all might be aware that there's a lot of new technology which is coming into play now with artificial intelligence and machine learning kind of technology. People are looking at how they can use historical data, right, which you have, let's say, stored based on different, let's say, tests that you have done in the past, or maybe simulations that you have done in the past, right? So this data is really valuable. How you can use this data to build a predictive model, right, by using AI and machine learning algorithms. And once you have a predictive model, you can then further use for doing very quick validations of new designs that you might want to evaluate, right? So this whole idea of using data analytics is really getting mainstream now in various industries. Apart from that, Internet of Things, there's a lot of these smart devices which are being manufactured, and this communication between multiple devices, right? Maintaining that communication, transferring data from one device to the other is all about Internet of Things, right? So there is another framework or platform which will allow engineers to build the entire system for doing IoT. And then, as I said earlier, high performance computing, not just on physical devices, but even cloud computing is the new norm now. The reason because most of these systems that we are designing and developing are very complex systems, and to run simulations on computer-based simulations, it will really take a long time. So unless you do that on high performance machines, either on the cloud or physical machines, it would really take a long time. So HPC is really a new norm now. And then, of course, there are other third-party tools that Altair has also allied with, and those tools are available as part of the same licensing model. So this is a broad solutions portfolio from Altair. Before I begin with the application of these simulation tools in the medical industry, let us understand how simulation is really helping in the design and development of any part or any system, right? Simulation was widely used in doing a lot of verification and validation of designs. So once a design is done, whether it is, let's say, a prosthetic implant, an orthotic implant, and so on, the validation of how that particular implant is going to really behave in real scenario, right? By defining different materials, loading conditions, and then understanding what are the stresses, strains, deformations of the component is all about how the verification and validation is being done, and simulation is widely being used in that particular segment. But apart from that, there is a lot of simulation also being used in manufacturing. So to really understand the feasibility of manufacturing, whether it is, let's say, casting or forging or even 3D printing, right? The whole process of doing 3D printing can now be computer simulated, right? To really understand whether a particular design, a 3D printed design, can really be manufactured, right? Is there going to be any issues while you're manufacturing? That is what you can actually simulate. And if there are any concerns in the manufacturing process, you can go back and redesign that part, right? So this is where simulation was predominantly being used, both in the verification and validation as well as manufacturing. But we are seeing a lot of simulation also being done at the early design stage, which is where designers are looking at creating new concepts, right? So simulation is now integrated into the design tools, and designers can then run a lot of early concept stage idea generation, right? Which is actually running simulations in the background. So the interface is very designer look and feel. But once you create the design and define those conditions, it is actually running simulation in the background to create those new concepts, right? So this is where simulation is also playing a big part in conceptualizing a new design. And then finally, if you look at on the right side, simulation is also being used while in operation, while the component or the system is under operation. Simulation is also being used to really understand what are the failure modes when the component is actually in use, right? And then how to maintain that function. So the use of simulation is cutting across the entire design and development as well as the operation of that particular component in the field. So what are those tools which really help in designing and developing any system, whether it is an automotive component, an aerospace part, or maybe even a medical device? To really help accelerate this design process, we at Altair have a very unique solution called as Altair Inspire, which accelerates the development, the creation of the design, optimizing that design, and also understanding the performance of that design in various scenarios, right? So this is a single framework which allows you to create the design and modify those designs, which will involve a lot of optimization. So topology optimization is typically used to create these designs, not just for let's say casting or forging or sheet metal, but even for 3D printing. So given a design space or a package space and the material definition, and along with that the different loads and boundary conditions which define that problem statement, engineers run this early concept-based topology optimization, right? Which will come up with this very unique design that is very specific to that particular component, right? And then at this stage, once you have got a design, you can refine that design and create a new CAD out of it. Once the design is ready, you can then run simulation to really understand the structural performance, the dynamics of the whole system, and then try to understand what are the right materials to be used for all these components that make up the system. Once the performance of the component is satisfactory, then you can go ahead and then check for the manufacturability of that part, right? So in that same framework or the tool, the software tool, you can check for the manufacturability of that part. So even for 3D printing, you can actually run 3D printing simulations on this tool to really understand the feasibility of manufacturing. And if there are any concerns with the manufacturing process, you can go back and change the design, right? So this is a single framework which will allow designers and engineers to come up with the optimized design very quickly, which is manufacturable. So what are the different manufacturing simulation tools which are used across the industry? not just for casting, metal forming, extrusion, or molding, but even for 3D printing. We have simulation tools which will help designers to really understand whether there are any issues while they are 3D printing it. So as far as 3D printing is concerned, there are really some key things that a designer has to look at. And one of the key things is how he can minimize the support structure for a 3D printed part, right? So once we have, let's say, designed a part, based on the orientation of the part and how you would like to, let's say, print that particular part, the designer and the manufacturing team will look at a certain orientation of that particular component. And based on that orientation, these support structures are evolved, right? So the whole idea is to see and really look at how to orient this part in the right fashion so that the support structure is minimized, right? So this whole system is all about how to optimize the part orientation, right? So the software will allow designers to orient the part in different directions and see what is the right part orientation to help minimize the support structure. Apart from that, the simulation tool also allows engineers to look at what are the deformations, right? Because of the spring back effect that you would see, right? Meaning when you finally manufacture it, there is a thermal distortion effects, right? So the whole idea is to reduce this manufacturing defect because of thermal expansion, right? So this is also one physics that is part of this whole process, and designers can really look at how to understand the effect of manufacturing. One other solution which is really important is to understand the right material for your particular component. So the idea of really having to characterize a material, whether it is a metallic component, a plastic component, or a composite component, which is made up of various different constituents, right? To get the right material model so that you can simulate it correctly, right? And understand the behavior of the whole system is very important. And typically we have such kind of tools which will help you to model all these different complex materials at a unit cell level and then run these simulations which will allow you to characterize, not just characterize the material model, but also perform multi-scale simulations, right? So the animation that you see on the right is of a composite material which is a unidirectional laminated composite, and we are trying to understand the behavior of this let's say open hole tension test that you're doing on the different fibers of the plies that you are using it for the laminate, right? Where is it failing, which ply is failing, and all that. So this whole idea is to really understand what are the right let's say constituents of the component or the material, which will help us to see to it that you get a very strong design, right? Now, having understood the various technologies which go into not only designing the system, but also running a lot of simulation to understand the performance of that particular design, let's look at how simulation technology is improving healthcare. Now, one of the key things that it is really helping is in reducing clinical trials. By running all these complex system simulations in the computer, you can really understand how the system, the mechanical device or the biomedical device is interacting with the human body, right? And all that is done using computers, right? You don't have to really take a medical device and then put inside a human body and really understand what is really happening with that particular device. You can do all those simulations in the computer. So this is helping us to reduce clinical trials. It will also help improve the device design. So a lot of devices are used in the medical industry, right? For example, this self-injector, right? To model, simulate, and see to it that the functional aspects of this particular device is satisfying all the different conditions. you can actually model and simulate that, and this will help us to improve the device design. You can also run simulations to understand the safety in a connected environment, right? Nowadays, there are a lot of these complex machinery which is used in the healthcare industry, and this involves a lot of electromagnetics, right? And some of these electromagnetics at different frequencies could be really harmful to the human body. So people really use simulations, electromagnetic simulations, to understand the effect of the radiation which is coming from these complex machinery. And then at the end, people are also looking at how simulation technology can enhance the patient care. With most of these smart products coming now into the industry, these smart products are connected. And for any patient who is far away from the hospital, you can actually extract data from that wearable device that a patient is wearing, and the data is transmitted to the hospital, which is keeping track of all the data of a patient, right? So this connected environment is really helping enhance the patient care, right? So most of the IoT devices, the connected devices, play a huge part in enhancing the patient care. I would probably quickly run through these slides, which is basically talking about how the medical industry has evolved in taking science-based decisions, right? We have started from the in vivo kind of, let's say, experiments that we were doing in the past, where we were actually using either the human or maybe guinea pigs to do a lot of testing of some of these medical devices, right? From there, we have progressed to doing in vitro, which is doing the testing outside the human body or an animal, to doing a lot of in silico, which is all based on computer modeling and simulation, right? This is the new norm, where you're actually allowing engineers to look at modeling of these complex human bodies and then run a lot of simulations. Now we are looking at virtual patients and human lab, and as well as digital twins. So from being very in vivo kind of experiments, we have transformed to doing a lot of complex validations of the medical devices in a virtual patient as well as digital twin. And you know very well that as far as in vivo and in vitro kind of, let's say, experiments are concerned, they definitely provide a lot of valuable insights, but they're very slow, costly, and limited, right? Doing some such kind of experiments. But when you look at in silico, virtual patient, human lab, as well as digital twins, the benefits are huge. They help us to perform investigations where experimentation does not exist, is very costly or unethical, right? It will help reduce reliance on animal models as well as human data, and then reduce cost and accelerate innovation, right? So a lot of this is very important now and is helping the medical industry in a huge way. I would quickly run through these slides, which talk about the benefits. The simulations that we do help in optimizing the entire product performance of the mechanical system. For example, as you see in this video, you're actually looking at how this particular system, which is attached to the human body, is helping him to walk properly, right? So how you can optimize this structure so that the right gating system is achieved for the patient. We are also looking at how these simulations help in performing investigations where experimentation does not exist, is costly or unethical, right? So these experiments have to be done on a very individual level, right? Because each of the individuals are different, and the structure of that particular patient is different from the other one, right? So it is very important to actually model and simulate for each and every individual in a computer simulation, and then go about manufacturing that particular device, right? So these simulations are helping in that way. And then finally, to help in the design and development of a reliable device, right, is very important. And simulation is playing a huge part in that as well. Not only to understand the requirements as far as the structural strength and durability is concerned, but also looking at the system motion, right? So how a particular system which has been designed is helping a particular patient to move, right? So the whole mobility assessment can be done very easily using simulation technology. With that, let's say, introduction of the simulation technology as well as the benefits, let's look at some typical case studies that Altair has worked with in the medical industry. We have, let's say, four different, let's say, areas where we have used simulation technology, right from looking at how to enhance the product design of medical devices, but also looking at how simulation is helping to design and develop prosthetics as well as orthotics, right? In a typical scenario, Mr. Vivek as well as Mr. Santosh Kumar did mention about the use of biomaterials, reabsorbable biomaterials, right? So simulation is also being used to really understand what is the right material which will suit a particular patient, right? So the whole idea of running these simulations in a computer and then designing a certain biomaterial for the patient is really critical. And then the simulation of all these complex physics inside a human body, right? Which will need the engineer to scale and then run these simulations, which involve a lot of CFD simulations, mechanism simulations, and all that, right? So these are four, let's say, different application areas. So let me. Yeah. So let me pick a couple of these case studies and then walk you through. To begin with, as far as the medical device is concerned, the whole idea is to design and develop all these medical devices which can help us to look at the still integrity of the system and also how these devices work in an operational environment, right? Where the devices are being tested for normal use, drop test, or misuse kind of conditions. You need to really design and simulate such kind of various physics, not just structural but even thermal as well as fluid and then electromagnetics as well. So a particular case study that Altair worked with is this self-injector, which is typically used by, let's say, the diabetic patients. And in this self-injector, there are a lot of complex systems that are part of the self-injector. There is a motor there, of course there is a battery, there is a lot of electronics inside that particular system. There is a mechanism which will help push the liquid into the human body. That mechanism also has to be designed, right? And then we have to test this for any misuse, let's say, in the case that the patient does not know how to operate, he might actually break it while using, or it may fall. So you need to do a lot of drop test, right? So this was a case study where we ran through multiple simulations, not just doing mechanism simulation to see how the mechanism really allow us to push the liquid into the human body, but even look at how you can design the battery and then draw the power to run this whole mechanism, right? And then doing a lot of drop test as well as misuse conditions. Here's another case study, which is of an IoT-enabled connected device, right? We wear all these smart watches these days. And as far as the medical industry is concerned, some of these medical grade smart watches that we have are fitted with a lot of sensors and antennas, which extract data of a patient and then transmit that to, let's say, hospital, right? So to really understand how you can design and develop such IoT-enabled connected device and see what effect it has on the radiation of the electromagnetic radiation which happens from these connected devices on the patient, we need to run a lot of simulations. Apart from that, you can also use some of the IoT applications. We have with Altair a framework called as SmartWorks, which will allow engineers to design and develop an IoT system which will run through a lot of complex simulations in the background. Here's another application which is very interesting. This is of a patient mobility system, which we worked along with Sarcos. Sarcos is the company which designed and developed this exoskeleton. And the whole idea is to really design an exoskeleton which helps a patient to walk through, right? So to understand the gating analysis, the motion of a particular patient, how he can actually lift a certain weight, what are the different motions that he has to really operate on. This has to be designed. So this involved a lot of analysis. So here is a dummy, the human dummy, and to it was fixed this exoskeleton, which had to be designed. And the whole idea is to look at what are the different motions that a patient goes through in his everyday life. And based on those motions, we need to capture all the different kinds of forces that would come on that exoskeleton. And based on these forces, you need to design all the different components of the exoskeleton, right? So this was a very complex system, and this was only possible by running a lot of these simulations in the computer, right? Here is another example of a patient mobility system, which was done by Skylift. But I'll just skip this. As you see here, this is to help a patient to get up from his bed, right? So this whole mechanical system of helping attach this system to the human body, the patient, and then allow him to sit upright, so that you can then take him to, let's say, the different parts of the hospital, and then allow him to walk around within the room and so on. So this was a complex system simulation which was done by Skylift. So that was about the medical devices. Let's look at a couple of applications in the prosthetics and orthotics. And in this particular application, there is a lot of 3D printing being used, right? To help design and develop such very complex 3D printed parts, you can then look at a particular patient, then take the measurements from that particular patient, define a certain design space for that particular component, which is going to look at how this component is going to fit into a particular patient, right? And then define all the required materials for that particular component, and then run these simulations. And while you're running these simulations, you can actually do a 3D printing optimization, right? So the whole idea is to look at how you can come up with the ideal structure which can be 3D printable. So here are certain applications. Sorry, I think... yeah, there are a few slides which are not coming up. Well, I'll go to the next application here. Yeah, this one is a good one. So in this application, we were looking at how to design and develop this orthopedic implant, for which we had to take a lot of measurements, right, from a particular patient, then design the whole system by defining the loads and boundary conditions, and coming up with a 3D printable design. And in this case, there was a lot of lattice structure which had to be used because of this system being implanted into the human body. We had to use a lot of reabsorbable biomaterials, right? So this is a very complex system which had to be designed and developed, and the use of the 3D printing simulation really helped in addressing the problem. So here are some outputs coming from the simulation. This is showing the stresses of a healthy femur. This is of a generic implant, and this is of an optimized implant, right? And as you see here, the stresses are definitely reduced from the max that you see here of a healthy femur. It is slightly less, but also it has improved in some regions, right? The hot spots that you see here, the red spots, are the high stress regions, and the optimized implant over here is showing a very good correlation to a healthy femur. By the way, Altair also worked with EOS, which is the 3D printing machine manufacturing company, to design and develop this 3D printed part. Here is another example, but I'll skip this in the interest of time. Moving away from the implants, which are more on the orthopedics, here is a stent that Altair worked with along with Medtronic, right? And as you know, these stents are very flexible. They almost work like a compliant mechanism, right? So the whole idea is to design and develop this stent and get the right amount of stiffness, right? They should not be very stiff. They should be very flexible, right? So how you can design this by varying some of these design parameters, using the right material, so that once you've put the stent inside the human body, it should perform in the right way, right? It should not exert too much pressure, right? So we can run these simulations in the computer and optimize the whole design of the stent so that the von Mises stresses, as you see here inside the stent, are reduced. So the red one is the optimized design of the stent, right? So we could improve the stiffness by around 124% and reduce the stresses by 71% by using optimization technology here. So with this, I end my presentation. It is really a wonderful time to be presenting Altair's technology in this conference, and I hope our presentation was really useful to the audience here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sushilji, for your presentation. The simulation was a focus, and I suppose all those who have been trying to look for the technology have got the essence of how simulation helps. So, thank you very much again.
Vivekji, Dr. Vikas Jain, he's in the audience. He wants to ask one question, so I have invited him on the stage on our virtual stage. So he will ask the questions. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes,
you're audible, sir. Please.
Yeah. So I was listening to the presentation made by Mr. Sushil, on simulations. So I have few questions for you, Sushil. Would you take it?
Sure, Dr. Vikas.
Okay. So very interesting, now since I am a very integral part of the 3D ecosystem and very closely working in patient-specific implants, PSIs, it is very imperative for us to understand the forces, most probably because they would be tailor-made forces in a lot of patients, So, right. Predominantly now what we are doing is we have modular implants. Suppose there was one slide where you presented with a femoral stem in a joint replacement hip, right. Yes. Wherein you had given a simulation showing areas of stresses, right?
Correct, Dr. Vikas. Yes.
Then according to that, you had come up with a solution of a femoral stem wherein that will take care of the stresses there, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Doctor. Now, is this simulation system available on a regular basis so that when we go ahead and do a PSI, patient-specific femoral stem, say, we can use this simulations patient to patient and then design a stem?
Absolutely, Dr. Vikas. And as you rightly mentioned, it could vary from patient to patient, right? Um,
Right.
this whole simulation and doing the final 3D printing has to be very specific to a patient. So what has happened is the technology has transformed immensely in the last 4 or 5 years. And as far as getting the patient specific data and finally delivering a 3D printable design, that entire design and development time can be vastly reduced now with this technology. So the whole idea of capturing spatial specific data by doing a lot of 3D measurements, right? Patient specific measurements, using that data, and then creating initial concept very quickly based on the loads and boundary conditions, and understanding what are the stresses and displacements, and improving that design by doing a lot of optimization can quickly be done with a lot of the improved technology which is available now,
Okay.
right?
So I'll ask you one thing, Sushil. One now. Consider that I come from a segment where I'm clinically. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. Most of these orthopedic surgeons are not. They don't know about all this that is happening in the orthopedic space, right? So
Yes, yes,
there has to be a system where I'll request Dr. Shibu, that we need to create an interface. There has to be an interface. There is so much of work that is happening in the space where you are doing from prosthetic point of view, you are working from implantable device point of view. There are a lot of simulations. There are a lot of products which are getting developed, and these things about the technology, the orthopedic surgeons should be knowing about it, though it is not available presently, but this could be the future. That is what is the whole idea. Another question that I had for Sushil was, suppose we have a fracture, right?
yep,
Suppose
yes,
it's a fracture in the proximal femur, and it's a 4-part fracture.
okay,
uh, can your company come up with a simulation
mm-hmm.
uh, giving us an idea about which are the forces which would be right in order to put all these fracture fragments together, so that we do not get any form of a failure, because till now
Right,
it's all human decisions, right?
right, right,
However, if you get some simulations wherein you
correct,
come up with an idea that this particular fracture, if it is fixed in this particular way, wherein the simulation gives us a fair idea about joint reaction forces, about the
absolutely.
so that will give us a good idea about what would be the right implant to be used and what is the best way to fix it. Can anything something like that be done?
Absolutely, Doctor. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, the technology has become very user friendly. And by modeling such a complex system where you're talking about understanding the fracture of a particular patient based on his motion, and then looking at how to design an implant better so that we don't see a similar fracture going forward. So you can really model all these complex implants and the various kinds of boundary conditions or forces that come onto this particular implant. You can quickly run these simulations and understand what are these forces, where could the fracture come, and so on. Definitely, you can run these simulations very quickly in a very integrated simulation tool now.
So there's a lot of work that is happening at an international level. I could see through your slides where you were mentioning about doing work for Medtronics and all that. So
Right.
I would request Dr. Shibu, because I am on an advisory role for Orthotech, and Orthotech is also a very integral part of our 3D graphic system, right, Shibu? So we at an India level also should get that opportunity of knowing this technological advances that is happening by so many researchers and scholars of the different industry, and most of their focus is on musculoskeletal system, if you would have seen, So
Right.
I would love to understand all that technology, take it to the orthopedic surgeons, tell them that this is what is happening in the technological space and the future lies here. So I think we need to create some ecosystem that way.
Yes, doctor. In fact, in the morning, while we were also having this discussion around for these hard and soft issues, that was a parallel session after the inauguration.
Yes, I was there. Yes.
Yeah. So now what we're doing is we also have researchers, scientists, also now actively a part of 3D Graphy as a consortium. Then you're already an advisor representing one. So I think that's the course for us to take things forward in terms of directly looking at solutions, because there's a huge gap that we need to really fill with these solutions and experts coming from various different domains coming together as an integral part. So I think the conscious effort is there. In fact, we also had a very detailed discussion with various other bodies in the morning. We also had the privilege of having Dr. Girdhar Gyani sir, who is also the Director General with the Association of Healthcare Providers of India. So there, it's a different expectations altogether in terms of seeing how we can look at POC as a point of care as one of the center module system in terms of offering solutions, so that the patient satisfactory index is also kept in check, and that can be.
Tomorrow we have an Indian Orthopedic Association session, right?
Tomorrow. I think then I will invite Sushil.
Someone like Sushil and all of them also can make some presentation there, so that we know about how simulations can be also very important aspect. From we as an orthopedic surgeon should know about this. We are all of us are unaware about so many things.
There was one gentleman joining from one software company called Simpleware. They're also joining. Sushil also can join. So then we have various different options to share in terms of the perspective. So definitely.
I think there was one more guy in the morning apart from Piyush. He was talking in terms of software.
Yes.
So these are the people who are doing a lot of work, Shibu, and I feel we should fill that gap. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Sushil. It's really enriching to learn the research that is happening in form of simulations, because this is going to really change the way orthopedic surgeons will now want to take decisions as far as the treatment offering is concerned.
Yeah. Sure. Thanks, Dr. Vikas. It's our pleasure to be part and discussing about this technology. Looking forward to any collaborations.
Yeah. You can take the program ahead. Sorry for that interruption there.
No, Doctor, because then it was very nice of you to get in and ask very relevant questions. So this actually makes it more participatory, more knowledge gets transmitted. So I'm thankful to you for your intervention.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vivek. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Sushil, for your excellent presentation. I think the second last speaker, Mr. Chandan Mishra, I request him to take over the mic.
Yeah, good evening, Vivek ji.
Good evening.
I'll take the. I hope you're able to see the screen.
Yeah, I can see and hear both.
Okay. So good evening, and thank you, Shibu, for the second opportunity for the 3D Graphy medical event. And from Lodestar, I'd like to thank for this opportunity. While on discussing this particular event, this time we thought we would be able to discuss about a very recently well adopted technologies, which is the digital manufacturing of implants. And today my attempt would be to take a little more deeper into this adaptation, and in that adaptation, how a particular technology, which is electron beam melting process by using powder source, powder materials, metal powder materials, are proving to be a game changer. A quick introduction about us. Lodestar Innovation is a 8-year-old company. We are based out of Bangalore. We are arguably one of the leading system integrating company in additive manufacturing space. We provide solutions from hardware to software to consulting roles in providing project-specific solutions to our clients. We represent some of the leading manufacturer of this technology globally. Arcam EBM, which is part of a GE Additive company, we are their representative, sales representative in India, and promoting the technology related to electron beam melting process. Today's presentation would be more towards that particular technology and its benefits, and why it's proving to be a game changer globally. Additive implants, we all of us know, are transforming the orthopedic implant manufacturing process. Recent rapid events where Orchid Life Science in US has made a significant investment into additive manufacturing process. They have picked up EBM as a solutions for their future growth path for implant manufacturing. So there have been many areas where additive manufacturing has been proving to be a success. The hip, the spine, and knee have been the significant early adaptation areas of implants. Subsequent to that, instrumentation, CMF for the craniomaxillofacial area, and in some applications related to shoulder, elbow. These things are where it's already been proving to be a huge success. It's been proven in last from 2007 onwards. AIM is a clear winner as far as clinical outcomes for patients are concerned. In conventional, the existing technologies where orthopedic implants are either casted or forged and machined and subsequently relied upon sintering and sprayed coatings for specific needs. Additive manufacturing process, in contrast to this, is offering a significant improvement in terms of the ability to build a trabecular structure along with the solid implant sections, providing sufficient bone ingrowth and osteointegration process. The significant other contributors are removing wastage or reducing the wastage factor of material, and also improving the supply chain. So there is no question about it in terms of the success that AM has brought into the implant manufacturing globally. We have companies from Brazil to Turkey to Korea to Japan to China, across spectrum, across different geography and markets, have been adopting this technology. In India, we have seen some early adaptation of this technology with few companies who are undertaking projects to make implants and creating designs to make them a product category for their requirements. Now, when we are talking about AM, additive manufacturing, I am predominantly talking about metal 3D printing process, for a simple to understand, where the raw material is powder. So the metal powders are either sintered or melted layer by layer, and that's how we are able to build a three-dimensional object. To understand the process of electron beam melting, we have to understand that electron beam melting process builds parts in a very high temperature and vacuum environment, yielding stress-free parts. And the EBM's unique ability to stack up the parts because of the making use of the complete build environment gives us the productivity advantage. The highlighting feature of this technology is the source of energy, which is an electron gun, which generates a high energy beam close to 3000 watts to 6000 watts. In such a process, the environment in which the metal powders are melt with this electron beam is a high temperature. Process temperature is used, which removes the residual stress that is there most of the time when we have the 3D printing processes are concerned. The entire build process happens in a high vacuum area, which eliminates impurity and improves the material property. So overall, before we go in understanding how EBM is playing a significant role in bringing benefits to implant manufacturing, I thought this basic understanding of the technology is needed to be shared. So we have a high vacuum and a high temperature process environment with a high energy beam source. Therefore, we are able to build more amount of powders or melt more amount of powders in a short processing time, thereby offering higher productivity. So just subsequent to this, how does this EBM process is providing value propositions? So as I said that we are using a high temperature environment, therefore we require very little supports. Supports are integral part of 3D printing. Earlier to me, Sushilji was mentioning about in the simulation process how support generations are extremely important when we are considering a additive manufacturing or 3D printing process for building of a component. In such a process, since the entire build platform is already at a high temperature level, those sintered powders act as a support. Therefore, we require a very little support when we build a component. It serves as powder. Apart from that, the environment is already high temperature and we have a vacuum environment. Therefore, the process helps us to build crack-prone materials, typically titanium alloys and some of the nickel alloys, which are extremely difficult when we talk about metrological point of view, when we do the melting process. So these benefits are realized in the case of a RCAM EBM build process. Since the printing is already done in a high temperature environment, we don't require any further heat treatment process, which is essential to relieve the stress that builds up during the build process. It also, in terms of the building, since the beam has a high melting volume and we could produce 3000 watts of power through the beam, you are able to build components dense and solid. So the mechanical properties, if you compare to a EBM produced components, are in many cases, most cases, are proven to be better than the cast and comparable to forged and wrought materials. We also have a very little oxidization process because of the high vacuum environment inside the build chamber, which enables us to remove impurity from the chamber and the environment. That removes the significant problems that occurs when we have the melting process happens, thereby offering consistency on each build. And it also helps us to build many reactive materials like titanium and other materials. And the other most significant benefit of RCAM EBM process, which is typically a mandatory requirement for some cases in aerospace as well as in medical if the components required to be hipped, you have a better choice to have the pores being closed with this process of build. Now, these two drives a significant productivity benefits for the end user. It's proven that over the time by many users that the cost of the part is reduced by 40 to 50%. You have lower powder cost happens because your wastages on the supports, reuse of the powder is high. You have been able to produce components stacked up. It means that you can build a part on the top of each other, which enables you to optimize the entire available build area, which significantly gives benefits in terms of productivity. The other processes like quality control, no heat treatment process for relieving stress, absolutely no moving parts inside the machine in terms of the building processes, gives you far more higher productivity level. So in quick nutshell, the ability to build the parts in a high temperature and a vacuum environment with a high source of energy, we are able to build components across the build platform on the entire build available volumes, where you could produce the components relatively stress-free and where you could reduce the necessary supports which are required to build, therefore having higher productivity and lower cost. Now, going further on to this, just to demonstrate these benefits, how they have been considered and realized, is that since 2007, when the first C-certified implant was produced by Lima in Italy, I think as we speak, I would say that close to 400,000 implants are already placed across, and many of the world leading companies who are engaged in manufacturing of orthopedic implants have been using these. The first US FDA approval happened way back in 2010, that's 12 years back. And in recent times, the first China FDA approval was obtained by AK Medical in 2015, and they have been able to achieve close to now 5 different designs approved. So these are the major players across globe from different geography who have been adapted this process and have taken the benefits of the EVM in their manufacturing. Just to reconfirm, the first C certification happens from 2007. That's with the Lima Corporation in Italy. The first US FDA approval happened in 2010. That's the Assemblator Cup from the Exactech. And the Chinese, FDA approval came in 2015 with AK Medical for the 3 of their designs into one of their augments also. Now, every time we talk about 3D printing, especially metal 3D printing, 80% of the system placements across globe from every aspect of applications area are powder beds machines. It means the source of the material is powder. The powder source could be reactive and non-reactive materials. Reactive materials like titanium, nickel, aluminum, and tungsten carbide, high steel, and reactives are standard materials like stainless steel, tool steel, and cobalt chromium. Now, the most of the powder bed systems today are based on either a laser melting process where the energy source is a laser, and you also have in the same powder bed fusion technology or powder bed melting another energy source, which is the electron beam. Now, electron beam processes, I tried explaining it in brief. The process in which you are printing or you are building a part in a high temperature and complete vacuum environment with a high energy gun. The benefits, if I have to compare between these two, is what I've tried demonstrating in this slide. The laser systems have benefits when we look at fine details in a component, when the requirement is to produce smooth and fine surface finish, when we are looking at multiple different type of materials to use in a single machines, and where we require to build a component at a quick setup time, in the sense from the time that I have created design to set up a print on the machine. That's the setup time. These are the benefits a laser systems offers. Just in compare that to the same powder bed, but with the electron beam melting process, we have a high temperature and low and vacuum environment. Therefore, we have no residual stress in the build components. Since we are able to build the components stack up, that is to build on top of each other, you are able to have a higher productivity because you could use the large volume, the entire volume of the build area. Very little amount of supports are needed to build the components. They're self-supporting designs, like the part that you could see, which is Olicon M Medical, one of the spine cage. Then another significant benefit is of the low powder cost. So these are benefits which EVM offers to you as an user. A laser offers that in terms of fine details in a part where you require a better or more fine surface finish and you wish to use multiple materials. It's not easy changing material on a printer, but then you still have a wider availability of materials that you can run on the machines, provided you take all the precaution and processes for the change of material. So this slide is more to demonstrate in powder bed, where the material source is in form of metal powder. The significant technology driver across additive manufacturing spectrum is either a laser based or a electron beam based. And I tried simplifying these two technologies in terms of their core benefits to you as an user. Now, how does this play when we look at to implant manufacturing? Now, here is in a comparison that is being made, comparing the qualitative aspects of the performance with a laser-based system to that of a electron beam melting mix process. Some of the key areas are, if you look at productivity, EVM offers high productivity in compared to laser, which is low to medium. But if you look at surface quality, then you have laser, which offers you higher quality surface finish in compared to EVM. If you're looking at fine details, here as well, laser is providing higher fine details on a printed part. If you look at stress relieving and heat treatment aspects, you have absolutely no need to do heat treatment on a EBM produced component. But when it comes to laser, it is mandatory to go through heat treatment process. Generating supports and removal of supports is extremely easy when it comes to EBM, but it's difficult and requires both manual and automatic processes in laser. So this is how we have compared both the technologies, just to show you a comparison between that from the perspective of qualitative aspects on the performance side. So coming back to the electron beam process for manufacturing of orthopedic implants, if you could see the picture, that's how I was referring to the stack ups, that's building a component on top of each other, is how you could optimize the entire build volume. So high productivity is what this image is showing. Since the entire build process happens in a high temperature and extremely and a vacuum environment, the produced parts don't require any heat treatment. Therefore, there is no process to relieve the stress, and where you don't have to do heat treatment to alter the microstructures. Here, you are able to produce a consistent microstructures for the entire component, entire build across the platform. The stacking up factor, that's how the image is showing, is how we can utilize the entire build volume, enabling us to produce more components in a single attempt. The other aspects which directly impacts the productivity is the powder. I have claimed before that the cost of the powder is significantly lower to a titanium powder or a cobalt chromium powder for F75 grade when you look at comparisons to laser source, and we will demonstrate that during the next few slides. The fact is, one of the largest manufacturing company of powder who have mining to finishing of the powder is also part of a G company. So in a way, Arcam owns the powder source, and therefore they provide you consistency on the powder and traceability of the powder, beside the regulatory requirements that you require to qualify the powder from the perspective of the medical ASTM grades qualifications. The other aspects, also the lowering cost impact because of the amount of supports that is needed to be built for a component is lower in case of a electron beam melting in comparison to other powder bed technology, helps you to also save cost. So this is how electron beam is proving to be a cost efficient and more adaptive technology for orthopedic implant manufacturing. I'll try explain this in the next slide. It's a comparison stack done based on few qualified as well by some of the consulting companies in Europe, like AM Power. This is a demonstration to bring before you the kind of cost implications electron beam melting process in comparison to a laser-based powder melting system. We have here two examples. One is the hip cup, the sabulator cup, and the tibial tray. This is how the EBM, you can see the image, how the parts are stacked up on top of each other. The gray section is the part which is the actual part, and the thin blue areas that you see are the support that's required to have these parts built. So it's estimated to have about 81 parts in a single build, and the cost for a total part cost is estimated to be close to $74, which is translating based on the CC volume close to $5 to $5 per CC. If I have to build the same with a laser, because laser doesn't offer us a very easy stacking up process, at best I could produce 12 to 14 items in a single build. There the CC cost goes and so somewhere in the range of $7.25 to $7.5. So that's the kind of difference that you could see in terms of CC cost when you compare both the technology. The other example I have below is the tibial tray. So that also shows the amount of cost per CC when you look at both the technologies, comparing EBM with the laser. So such cost of productions is how it's proving that electron beam is being one of the significant game-changing technologies, which is very well accepted by the orthopedic industry, and it's being adopted from mid-size to large companies across globe in different geography for different applications. So just a quick understanding, how does this equipment look like? That's where the image is. This is a machine which is built and optimized for medical implant manufacturing. Currently, the build envelope is in 200 mm by 200 mm to 180 mm. It's under the newer systems that we expect to have to come soon. Would have some increase on the build height, thereby ability to increase the productivity. The source, that's the electron beam, which uses a Fa6 filament, producing 3 kilowatt of beam power. Different grades of material which are currently available on these machines are Tie 6 grade 5, grade 2 and grade 23, that's the ELI. That's the beta alpha alloy, titanium alloy suitable for medical application implant manufacturing, and cobalt chromium F75 grade material, also suitable for medical orthopedic implant manufacturing. It's a very small machine, requires about 2 meter by 2 meter operational area. With the machines, it comes with accessories. Here we are talking about a setup which could be in the range of 4,000 feet by 4 meter by 4 meter area. So it's a very compact machines, requires minimal operating areas to have this system placed. It doesn't have a significant other cost factor which influences the adoption of 3D printing is the usage of inert gas, understanding of oxygen concentration in the room for the health safety, the ability to recycle the powder so that the powder is not inhaled by the operating team. So all these factors are contributed or significantly looked at when this type of technology are used from ARCAM. So I'm not going deeper into understanding a setup, but I'm just explaining that it's already being built keeping in mind medical implant manufacturing processes and has a very small footprint. So when we talk about the machine, it's important to also talk about the material. So here is the widely used Ti6 ELI grade 23 material. It has excellent material properties related to F3001 required for the medical implant categories. You have the details as shown in the slide in terms of yield strength and tensile strength. You have ability to build this material with different layer thicknesses which are currently available in our in the electron beam melting processes. It's been proven with highest level of biocompatibility. I would like to note here that the Delta TT cups, which are manufactured by Lima, is being awarded the best survivability aspect of a Accelerator cup recently or in past. So it's been proving to be excellent biocompatibility results across. This is one of the material. The other material is the F75 grade, which is medical grade cobalt chromium, which is currently also are available on this machine. In most cases, in some of the implants manufacturer also recommended or expected to have these components hipped. So these are also being proven to be excellent in biocompatibility. The typical yield strengths and other aspects related to the cobalt chromium powder in comparison to the standard ASTM F75 grade details are here on the slide. This is just to demonstrate that the necessary powders have necessary qualifications, biocompatibility and strength and resistance and other factors that are critical and are part of the evaluation of a material. and the standard ASTM grades that are critically required to be met. Most of the time, the powders produce component, the powder qualification certificates implies that they're significantly better in compared to the standard ASTM requirements. Another grade 2, many companies started using this material recently, which is the F67 ASTM grades. Comparison is excellent material properties. Compared to that, you could see the differentiations in the yield strengths. You have significantly improved performance coming from the Arcam TI6 grade 2. Now, these are the materials which are currently available and used on the Arcam AVM processes for implant manufacturing by different manufacturers globally. This is another significant aspect of the machine or equipment, which is a key demand or a requirement when it comes to orthopedic implant manufacturing. It's to find a system in which quality is monitored and checked and verified. So Arcam has a system which they call it layer cam, which helps to detect layer by layer mostly relative density aspect of the build. That is to convey that during an entire build process, has there been any area where the expected melting process has not happened for any reasons. So high resolution camera inside the build platform takes layer by layer data and compare it with the standard approved yardsticks to demonstrate a system generated report to qualify that a build is having no defects, or if there are defects, in which of the components you have defects. So this is a part of the system configurations that the users have to get back a quality report systems from the machine to help you analyze a single build if there has been a defect in that. This has helped many companies in terms of defining their guidelines for process qualification and operational qualifications, and this is part of the Arcam's product offering. So just going to some of the success stories. I talked about Lima. I think from the 9 EBM system, now it has gone to 15 EBM systems today in Italy. And they have been using this extensively in terms of adopting 3 to 4 different product categories, which are now completely moved on to additive manufacturing process. A point of view that I was mentioning about the survivor saves rates, 99% at 5-year. Delta TT cups were awarded the best in Europe in 2015. And there has been also a case where Lima has now incorporated a additive manufacturing process in one of the hospitals. So the printing facilities are at the basement of the hospitals, and they are offering the customized implants in New York for making implants made from the same facility and being offered to the surgeons and the hospitals for implants implementation. So going from Lima, the next, it's a unique, the first company to have a FDA approval for a clip-based design based out of US. I think at present they have more than 60,000 of those implants are already being implanted. It's one of the first spine products to have FDA approval in way back in 2012. They have the entire product completely manufactured with additive manufacturing, and they have taken the EBM process to have these products being manufactured. It's one of the key success stories of this technology in US. Another success story close to us in China, that's the AK Medical. They have got their implants approved in 2015 with the China FDA. At present, they have more than 25 EBM machines producing 3 approved products, which are the subletter cups, some augments, as well as knee implants. So with that, I would like to thank you for the time given to me. I hope my presentation has helped you understand how is electron beam melting process has helped helping implant manufacturing companies to adopt this process for manufacturing of implants. Thank you and good evening to all.
Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. And I think it's a time to move on with Dr. Shibu. And let us hand over the mic to him to take the proceedings further. Yes, Dr. Shibu.
I will now want to open this for your discussion. Eventually, if there is any that you have to make a final conclusion of the discussion. I was in another session. There are parallel sessions happening, so please excuse me for the delay. But we're just trying to catch up for back-to-back sessions happening parallelly. But yeah, any conclusions that we have come to finally, because these will be inputs that we will also be taking as our course of information to the concerned team, and also as a consortium, we are also actively looking at sourcing the information accordingly.
The presentations that have been through one after the other, and probably every aspect of 3D printing has been covered in the whole thing. It started with where technology would take us. Then, every presenter has come out with the details of technology. Then it moved on further, and then it moved on further. So probably every aspect of the technology, including how 3D printing works at different options, have been discussed. Overall, I trust the information that has been shared is excellent. And if there are any questions, all the presenters are here, and they could, sort of take the questions. If they are not, I would like to conclude it as, this is a way forward. The industry has to look ahead as to how do we take it further. And we have all the technology available at our disposal. We have seen all the presenters stating almost the same thing. So we have to move on. Let us use the technology that is available for us and sort of make this country a great country again.
Vivekji, thank you so much for your time and also being actively there as a session chair, taking the course with inputs coming from various experts. Also, you being the end user, it would also have given you an eye-opener in terms of how these technologies can be of benefit. And you've been also using the technology. It's not that you're getting exposed to this technology first time. But the larger intent would be also to look at more active trainings and communication and set program. In fact, I did also have an opportunity to speak to Rajivji also that we should be conducting these sessions with AI MED also as a medical device industry association. Likewise, even OIMA and Orthopedic Association. So everybody is actively have accepted the fact that yes, there's a huge prospect for us to see and work towards. Tomorrow also, Vivekji, we are actually conducting this session on orthopedics. Please do join. With the same link, you can also join. It will be a great learning. And Sushil Saab, you can also join to share some of your insights, because since Dr. Vikas ji also did mention that that would be a great learning for them also to learn. I will set that particular session details and probably send it to you, so you
Sure,
can.
Doctor.
Yeah. So since he was impressed with that particular simulation exercise in terms of for them to be updated on the same. So we will work on that.
Sure.
And also Chandanji and Praveen, all of you are invited, because this is going to be a 2-day event. When it comes to services and technology, all respondents can connect with all the sessions relevant to what they can offer. But when it comes to orthopedic, we are also doing one dental session in the morning, sir. It's to do with your reconstructive surgery, wherein AOMSI is actively participating as our host. That's the Association of Oral Maxillofacial Surgeons of India. So likewise, ISOI, that is Indian Society of Oral Implantologists, that's a separate session. And subsequently, we'll have session for orthopedics also, addressing both the technology as well as the interest in terms of orthopedic oncology. Where you're talking about sarcoma, as in precision sarcoma is also going to be discussed on that subject. So thank you, gentlemen, and have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow as per your convenience, sir. Thank you
very much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.